You're listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host Lucy Norris, and on today's episode, I'm chatting with a fashion influencer and designer. Adventurous with her style from as long as she can remember, this week's guest definitely knows how to make a statement. Inspired by the likes of Lady Gaga in her teenage years, she fell in love with style's ability to tell a story and began expressing herself through the clothes she was wearing. Beginning to make a name for herself in the Irish industry at just 16, she started sharing her lookbooks online and never imagined that in a few years she would have a platform of almost 20,000 people and her very own brand. To share her story, here's what it's like to be Grainne Binns. Welcome, Grainne. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. I think how we should kick everything off is just chat a little bit about style and I suppose your experience finding your unique style, maybe from when you were younger to how you've established it now.
Sure. So firstly, thank you for having me. Style, I guess. I think I was always a bit like out there as a child. Like my mom always kind of says, like I was always a bit different. That's what she says. When I was a child, I went through phases of different kind of costumes. So it was like Harry Potter at one stage. My mom said I lived in a Spider-Man costume at another stage.
Oh.
There was years on holidays where I would do like fashion shows, but my mom said it'd be like 30-degree heat and I'd just come down with more and more layers on to parade around and show my fashion show. So I think it was always definitely there. But then it was kind of in my early teens that I really kind of started to find my own style. Like even as a child, I kind of always like would make dresses and stuff for my dolls. So I definitely think it was always kind of there. I just didn't really know. And then I think when I was a teenager, maybe 14 or so, I got really into like, I loved like Lady Gaga. She was always like an icon for me. And I think seeing how well she kind of expressed herself through her clothing and how she's like her style as a way to express her feelings and emotions and even different kind of political stances, I feel like I got really kind of interested in that kind of side of fashion and style and how it can be so like it can tell a story. So I think from there I just kind of started to tell my story through my style. Like even like if I wasn't doing so well, I'd usually wear like dark clothing, oversized clothing, and that kind of thing. If I was happy, I was always in bright multicolored clothing. So it was kind of from there, and then I just guess from like my teen years it's kind of just built on and on from there.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I love your style. But can you talk to me about maybe your decision process and things like that when you decided that you did want to make this into your day job, into your full-time career, and how you kind of managed to get your foot in the door of the fashion world in Ireland?
So I think like when I kind of realized, I would like to do this, it was probably around 2017. But I mean, before that, like when I was maybe about 16 or so, I had like a lookbook, and I would like post my outfits and stuff on that. I feel like I'm sound so old when I say that, but a lookbook was like it was kind of around the time of Tumblr as well, and I used Tumblr and stuff too, so I was always kind of posting outfits on Tumblr and then my lookbook and stuff as well. And then I think from there I kind of, even at the age of 16, kind of started getting a tiny bit of a name for myself then. Like I also did work experience with Think House. So I remember like I was doing work experience on the fashions table in Think House, and we do like a fashion show each week kind of the staff members like just kind of messing around. But I think from there, people started to kind of know who I was from that. So that was like very early days, and then I got invited to like a few kind of press events and stuff from that, and then I kind of lost my interest in it for a bit. I got quite unwell, and then I just kind of lost my confidence and stuff. And then it wasn't until after So I would have been about 16 when I was ill, and then when I was about maybe 19, 20, I went to college. I studied communications in college, and I think being out of school and kind of leaving, the same group, because obviously when you're in school you're around the same group of people, and where I'm from, it's quite a small village. Everyone knows everyone, everyone knows everyone's business, that kind of thing. So I think when I was like in school, everyone knew me as the sick girl after I was sick, and I was like, I just don't want to draw any more attention to myself. So I think that's where I lost my confidence from my style. But then going to college and seeing people just not really care, I was like, I used to be like that, and I want to get that back. And I think that's what really kind of drove me to be like, I can do this. So when I was in college, I started a blog, and then maybe about a year after I had the blog, I was like, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to really put loads of effort into, actually creating content and actually trying to get somewhere from this. So I think I started a blog around 2015 or 2016. And then it would have been 2017 when I was like, I think blogging was kind of falling off the radar a bit. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to put loads of, hard work into my content. And that was when I kind of started doing like daily kind of posts, or at least posting 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. And then from there it's just kind of really grown. It was probably about a year after I started posting that I started getting gifting and stuff. And then I guess from there it's just kind of continued to have like a steady growth, which is good.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And from your perspective, do you think it's possible to work in the fashion industry, I suppose, just in general, without having an online platform in this day and age? Or do you think, it's a tool that you really have to be involved in it?
I think you need to be clued into the online world. I don't think you necessarily have to have a platform. Like, I have friends who don't have a platform who work in fashion. Like, there's lots that goes on behind the scenes. Like, you can do styling, you can do styling assisting, you can do PR, you can do marketing. Like, there's so many. It really just depends like what kind of like area of fashion you want to work in. Like, I mean, I think, what I want to do, like it obviously helps, I'm an an influencer. So like obviously, the more like the bigger your platform is, the more money you're going to make realistically. And then obviously I have just kind of started my brand and stuff as well. And I suppose the better I do as a personal brand, the better my brand is going to do, because the more people that are going to know about it, like I'm kind of my advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such a cool way in that sense to I suppose be your own marketing team and things like that, and you already have that core base of people that trust you, and because of your authenticity, I suppose, online. And the other thing that you're I don't want to say known for, that sounds weird, but you sell on Depop as well, which I think is really interesting. And I was reading this morning that Ireland makes up like 80%, or that's probably wrong, but a really big chunk of Depop's users, which is really cool. So can you tell me
Yeah.
how you got involved with that, and your experience with that platform?
I don't really do it as much anymore. I just honestly, right now, I just don't really have the time. But when I was in college, like my whole way through college and probably up until about last year, like especially I feel when I used to go to festivals and stuff, a lot of the time I would get outfits, and I'd know it was only going to be something I'd wear once. So a
Yeah.
lot of the time I would sell them on Depop. So that was kind of what I mainly used Depop for. But then also there'd be times that I'd kind of pick up things to sell on Depop. So I think I mainly just got into it just from literally being a broke college student. And I always worked through college, but I also like, I always say it's one thing I dislike about myself. I have really expensive taste,
Oh, me
unfortunately
too.
for me. So when I was in college, I was like, I need to make more money. Like I was like, I can't, like, because obviously I worked part-time in retail. But you'd only be doing say what 10 or 20 hours a week, if
Yeah.
even. And I was like, that's just not enough for me. So I would sell my clothes that I wasn't wearing anymore on Depop. And yeah, especially like throughout the summers, like that, if I was selling on my festival pieces, like it pretty much used to pay for my next festival. So like I would go to a festival, sell all of the outfits I wore, and then with the money that I had made back off the outfits that I'd sold on, I'd buy outfits and my festival tickets for the next one. So that was kind of what I mainly used it for. But I also feel like now I'm like way too attached to my clothes. Like my wardrobe is exploding and like I can't stop buying more, especially in lockdown. But
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm just so attached to everything that I can't let them go. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear from your perspective, and I'm the same. I'm such a hoarder with clothes; it's so bad. Um, but you obviously mentioned there your brand that you are building at the moment. Can you tell me a bit more about that and how that came to be?
Yeah, so I always wanted a brand, like from the very beginning of like me doing all of this. Like I was kind of like, I want to do all of this so that eventually I can have a brand. So it up until about last year, it always seemed like something that I would do in 5 to 10 years. Like I just didn't really see it as realistic right now. Because obviously it's expensive. But then we went into lockdown, and we were in lockdown in the summer, and some of my friends and stuff started, just like putting out things. I have a lot of friends that like are very creative and very talented as well. And I think that kind of gave me a push, because I was like, oh my God, like if they can do this, like I can do this. So I started with 2 t-shirts. I didn't even have a brand name or anything. They were kind of more merchy, but I didn't ever want it to seem like merch. I was like, I just don't want it to be that. So I started with the 2 t-shirts, and then they went well. And I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to start designing a collection, and we'll see where it goes from there. So at the moment, I'm like kind of like getting towards the stage where I am sending off stuff to manufacturers and stuff. So that's exciting. But it's I think at the moment it's just like I'm just trying to build up a brand image and stuff, which I think has gone really well so far. Like it's obviously a very slow process, but it's kind of fun as well. And I think it's all kind of a learning process. And as I said, I really thought it was going to be something that was like so far away, but then I was like, I literally am never gonna have a time like lockdown ever again. I feel
Yeah.
like, it's given me much more money because I've nothing else to spend money on in
Yeah.
terms of like, if we were in normal life, I wouldn't have the money that I have right now to invest into this, because I'd be using public transport more. I'd probably be going on holidays more. I'd probably be saving to do things in the summer. So I was like, if I don't put my money into this business, I'm just going to buy things that I don't need. So even if it flops, I'm like, at least I know I've tried. But I have faith, I'm really excited about the stuff that I have coming kind of for the summer and stuff. And I think hopefully after like lockdowns and things, it'll be something nice for people to, hopefully, if in the summer we get a summer, I'm hoping that
Yeah.
it's going to be some nice outfits for people to enjoy their freedom in.
Yeah, that's so cool. And first of all, like congratulations for starting, as you said. It's I think it's so easy to have all these ideas, but it's actually getting up and starting them. That's the hard part, which you've done. And it looks amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Um the other side, I suppose, of your job and what you do is Instagram and interacting with the audience that you've built. So I'd be curious to know if you ever struggle with being so open online and being so transparent in terms of then, in your personal life, or making yourself vulnerable to criticism in that way.
I don't really receive any like, I'm very, very lucky in the sense that I don't actually receive much like negative, comments or anything. Obviously there's the odd few sometimes, but I always try to tell myself, if I do ever receive any negative, obviously if it's something that's like, constructive criticism, I try to take it on. But if it's someone just being like, you're ugly or something, just something, stupid,
Yeah.
I kind of always try to put myself in, that person's shoes and what that person must be going through to comment something horrible on somebody that they don't know, you know. But in terms of kind of being so vulnerable, I guess sometimes it's hard, because I feel like it's, if I'm having a tough day and somebody texts me and tells me about their tough day, I've definitely found in this lockdown as well, I feel like I find it hard to reply to people. Just, I think my energy levels with it are just quite low, but I always do want to reply, you know. Like sometimes I think when you do put yourself out there so much, and I am very vulnerable online, I think sometimes people forget that I might have stuff going on too, but I never mind. Like I always tell people to text back, but I'm like, just give me a few days sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
um so yeah, but other than that, like it's actually grand, and I really enjoy kind of chatting to people and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I can just imagine that sometimes it could get a bit overwhelming with the amount of, interaction and things you have to deal with when people might forget that it's actually just one person. Because for a business account or something like that, there'd be a team of people running it, but it's just you and you're doing so many other things as well. So yeah, I was just curious to know your take on that. And I suppose,
Yeah, like, sorry, just like the general things. I don't want to sound like I actually like hate people messing me. I
no,
love chatting
no.
to people. I think the only time it ever kind of gets to me is if I feel like I can't do anything to help somebody, you know, or
Yeah.
like, you know, if someone reaches out to me in crisis or that kind of thing, because I have gotten that, or like, you know, people asking me about kind of, you know, like medical things and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not the person you should be talking to about this, even though I do say my DMs are always open, but you know, there's only so much that I can do. And then sometimes I feel like I take on the emotion of not being able to do more. So that would be the only time I find it really difficult. But I also love just being able to be somebody, like it's so nice that people see me as someone that they can open up to without, you know, even actually knowing me personally. So, you know,
Yeah.
I always try to think, I just want to be someone that I wish when I was struggling as a teenager that I could reach out to, you know?
Yeah, of course. Aside from, growing your brand and things like that, what do you think the future will hold for you in terms of all of this? What's your overall goal?
I
Hard
think,
question.
yeah, it's always so hard, especially my mind changes every second day. I think, I think overall, yeah, I mean, like growing the brand, and yeah, I mean, just growing my personal brand, I guess. I think, I just like to get to a point where, like, you know, I can just have a good time all the time.
Yeah.
And know that I've built something that I'm really proud of. And yeah, be able to like give back to my family and stuff, and be able to give back to, you know, other, I'd love to do something that would help, like, you know, other creatives coming up, because it's so hard. So I think my biggest thing would just get to a point where I can like be comfortable and then give back and stuff, and just have something built that I'm like super super proud of. Like I think that's like my like biggest goal with it all.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're well on your way to it. And then finally, I just have one more question for you. It's another kind of deep one, so sorry to be bothering you with this so early in the morning. But if I put your 10-year-old self in front of you today, having been through everything you've been through with work, with life in general, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give that 10-year-old self moving forward?
Am I allowed to cry?
Oh,
Any different? I think I would just say like resilience and just keep going. Like honestly, I feel like life has thrown me so much shit. Am I allowed to say that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and you know, I was only having a conversation with my friend the other day, because we were kind of talking about you know, when you're going through something really tough, like although people are trying to help, they might say like, oh, you know, time heals all wounds, or like good vibes only. And we were like, sometimes that's so counterproductive.
Yeah.
But like when I reflect on everything that I've been through, it's like time actually is the biggest healer, and you just have to have that resilience and just honestly, just I don't know like what is inside of me that makes me keep pushing forward. But I think to just keep, if you have something that you want to do, or you have something that you're passionate about, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Like, I honestly believe whatever you want to do, if you believe that you can do it and just set your mind to it and like really just work your arse off, like you'll get it. Like, it's just about resilience, determination, taking the no's, taking the shit times, like taking it all and just seeing everything as a learning curve. Like, I really think, especially 2020 last year, like I think
Yeah.
that year just taught me more than anything, all we have is present moment. You have to just keep going. And yeah, resilience, I guess that's what I would probably just tell my 10-year. Oh, and cry, stop
Oh.
putting emotions away. If you need to cry, just cry.
I love that. Just let it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, as you said, I think that advice is so relevant to the time that we're in at the moment. So I think that will really resonate with a lot of people. And it's cool to hear, having come so far with your career, what you would, I suppose, reflect on, or maybe praise yourself for along the way, which is really cool. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving up your morning to share your story with me. It's been so interesting picking your brain for a bit.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please rate, share, and leave a comment if you like what you hear. And don't forget to follow at What It's Like Pod on Instagram and Facebook. To find out more about Grainne and to follow her journey, visit the links provided in the show notes. I'll be back on Monday with more inspiring stories, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luce.